What in the name of Sam Hill is that?
And just because of some arbitrary standards, then, you know, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
I hate spunk!
This is Saul Elkin from the Jewish Repertory Theatre. We are proud to bring you part 2 of An Evening with Ed Asner.
Now, another gentleman, Ed, who was in that television news game at the NBC affiliate for many, many years, award-winning, Emmy Award-winning, Murrow Award-winning, is Rich Kellman. So, Rich, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, John, very much.
What's your question?
You have seen children who need special care, and you have actually reached out to help them and help children everywhere. I think the fact that you have opened yourself up to that, and you showed us who you are as a person, as a mensch, if you will, has been very important to me. This has been a pleasure hearing you talking about yourself. I really didn't know much about you, but I want to thank you for that. How have you done that throughout your life? Because a lot of people just kind of, they fade away at a certain point if they're still living, even if they live for a long time. You have made yourself useful.
Well, for instance, if my youngest boy had not been adjudged autistic, I never heard of that. I didn't understand what it meant. Didn't understand where it came from, and I said he needs help. So I tag along and I give help. He was born out of wedlock. His mother was a Liberty Gibbet, and as time went on, I found that she was also kind of imitating what's the mother called who creates illness in her child? A Munchausen.
Munchausen by proxy, that's right.
Yeah. And I realized that he's going to get stymied from the get-go. So I pursued sole custody and got it, and had, fortunately, a lady who was very aggressive and wanted to get the best for him. She got good doctors, and we began the healing process for my son. And from that, we grew into the Ed Asner Center. That's that aspect. I don't know what other aspect I could mention now, but I thank you so much for your compliment, and hope I continue to live up to it.
When I see you act, yes, you're inspiring, but when I know what you have done that's appropriate at this age with the wisdom that you've acquired and the experience and the love you have for your children, it makes me feel very good about that, about my own family. So thank you.
Thank you. You're very kind. And I want you to know that if you enjoyed the humor of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, that it began with the writers. They were brilliant, and they put it together, and we executed it. But the word came first, the written word, and they're the ones who put it down.
We run the MeTV network, which has aired the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and it's really introduced that show and so many others to a brand new audience, who haven't seen it. In fact, Phil, come on up, because the owner of the station spent some time at the studios in the Mary Tyler Moore, the MTM studios, and I think you have a comment you want to add too. Here, step right up here, Phil.
Ed, I tell people around here that one of the most intelligent people I ever met was Grant Tinker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came into the business, and he knew that content was the winner. A lot of other studios had money men in charge. He put writers in charge, just like you just mentioned. Writers, good stories. Yeah. The Lou Grant character was interesting when Mary Tyler Moore Show was on. It's rare or almost unheard of for a character to be carried over into another show.
Mm-hmm.
How did that decision come to be when you transitioned to a different format, different show, same character, or same kind of character?
When it was announced in the 7th year that was the last year, and I think all of us on the show would have said, well, we'll be glad to do an 8th year, but they weren't interested. So we all began to look for future grounds. And finally, my agent got CBS to admit that they wanted me and they wanted to produce yet another show with me in it. So I said, fine, if I get Alan Burns and Jim Brooks to be the producers, okay? They said, yeah, we'll do it, fine. Okay, so a couple of months went by, and finally they came on to me and said, we figure that we would want to keep Lou and have him return to his initial love, which was print, and maybe do an hour show. They blithely said this, not knowing the unbelievable obstacles that to go from a half-hour show to an hour show. It's unbelievable. But they said, we're going to do it. So they did it, and we went through a hell of a problem in that first year, adjusting to the hour show. But finally, we made it.
As an actor, you had to transition the same character to a different format.
Yeah.
Comedy to a serious role. How did you cope with that?
Well, it was an hour show with problems, but it had moments of laughter, and I didn't want to lose the laughs. So, what did I do? Whenever I was involved in a laugh, I would watch it, and because first of all, in an hour show, you can't have extraneous noise. Everything must be focused on the moment of opening the safe, doing this, doing that. It all is cemented in an hour show. There's no audience. There's no crew. People don't exist. You just do the action and get the noise out of it. When we did that, there were very funny moments as we proceeded. And I wanted the audience at home to enjoy them and laugh. So I didn't know what to do. So I was in therapy at the time. And I got to my therapist after the first show or two, and I said, well, what did you think? And he said, why do you grimace? I said, I beg your pardon? Why do you grimace? And I realized every time there was a laugh, I grimaced, giving the audience the cue to laugh. And I thought, oh, God almighty, I have to change. So I stopped grimacing.
I'm going to jump in. Phil's wife, Mary, was an editor at the LA Times. And so, Mary, I'll jump in. What was the representation at the newspaper business in Lou Grant similar to what it must have been in the Los Angeles Times?
More than similar, it was exact. It was the bar that they would sit in, that Lou and Billy and Animal would hang out in, was a real bar across the street from the Times, and a lot of old Times hands would go there for the dinner hour, and there was actually a Times extension in the bar, and when they wouldn't come back because they'd had one too many scotch and soda or whatever, and they were smoking late, the copy chief would call over and say, tell him he's got to come back, we've got a deadline here, and they'd all got to go back. But it was exact. I mean, you filmed in that very bar, right, in the Redwood?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that waitress there who, they finally closed the Redwood, as everything, all good things come to an end. But Alice, that waitress there, that made her career. Being there, she was there, the blonde, the kind of elderly blonde waitress.
Yeah.
She, I mean, long after Lou Grant was over, she lived on Lou Grant stories at the Redwood.
Boy.
Don, I know you have a question for Ed.
I do. Hi, Mr. Adner. Don Gervasi. We talked a little bit about different chapters in one's life, and you were a former president of the Screen Actors Guild. I was wondering what compelled you to step up from a player to a labor leader.
Well, I'm not a labor leader, but I'm a liberal, and I belong to a rebel group within the union who wanted change, more of a democracy, etc. So I nominally gave my name and activity to whatever they needed. Finally, when the battle wore down, I found myself the center of attention and the liberal candidate. And so I grudgingly went in. I can save the union. I guess I thought that. I could save it because I had all these liberal friends who would give me the ideas and the weapons to democratize the union. Well, it never happened, but we tried.
Well, being so outspoken when you were president of the Screen Actors Guild, you've often thought that William Paley decided, he was president of CBS, decided to take Lou Grant off the schedule because of some things you had said about conflict in El Salvador and being so outspoken. Do you regret that you were outspoken, or do you look at it as an opportunity to have spoken what you believe in to help others?
Well, it's in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, I did regret the loss of jobs for at least 200 people because of my outspokenness. But at the same time, because it was too late to retract anything of my actions, and I wouldn't have, I would have gone through a lot worse soul searching before deciding to go ahead. People were being killed right and left by this government's policy of training autocrats to lead their country and teach them the latest in weaponry. And I spoke out against it.
When you were blacklisted after SAG, I believe it was, didn't you feel that the power that you carried from SAG forward should carry you forward from that?
It doesn't hire you.
No?
No. And the blacklist didn't last that long. But what I found was that when a blacklist is even intimated, that even the liberals crumble and cower. And there was a medical series that was up for casting. And the writer, Howard Rodman, suggested me for one of the lead roles. And the producer, who was nominally a liberal, said, no, I think he'd be a political liability. Okay, so we go from there. So about that same time, I got a documentary job in Boston, I think it was. And the first day, the producer took me to lunch, and he said, you know why you're here? I said, no, why? He said, because in D.C., you gave an interview, and you said that during a blacklisting, that even the liberals cower and crumble and behave themselves and don't cast where they won't get accepted. So I said, I put you down for a narrating voice, and the list came back with a red line through your name. I knew why, but I didn't do anything about it. That's why you're here today, to make up for that.
Talk to us about your book and what motivated you to write your book. Make sure I get the title right.
Well,
I haven't read The Grouchy Historian and Old Time Lefty.
I thought it needed clarification. The Constitution, the misapplication of the Constitution, and the Electoral College. All of those things need to be talked about, needed to be fought out, and we're in a mess today because Hillary Clinton got 2 to 3 million votes more than Donald Trump, and yet the Electoral College denied her merited championship. It didn't matter that she had 3 million votes more. The states ruled. And I think that's an evil that this country has to deal with and figure out how to solve.
Catherine worked with you on a movie. What is Ed like on a movie set? What was the project you worked on?
I got to tell you, it was a little indie film somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And it was the first time I had met Ed. And I was so blown away by how he took the time to learn everybody's name on the set right away. Took time to talk to people when young people were feeling frustrated. You took time out from whatever you were doing to talk to them. For somebody watching that's passionate about something, but that hasn't found their voice, to step up, to do whatever it is that they came here to do, to live their passions, what would you tell them?
Well, if they didn't live it, they'd have that regret, and I've seen those people regret it the rest of their lives.
Right.
So if they want something and they don't act on it, then they'll regret it the rest of their lives.
Right. And just do it. Sometimes just get out there and do it, even if you're afraid.
Exactly.
Were there times in your career where you were afraid to walk on set or to do anything that you faced?
I got my first Untouchables, and I was cast as a gypsy on this show. And I said, well, what kind of accent should I use? I couldn't figure out what. I said, well, wait a minute. Gypsies emanate from Hungary, so I'll use a Hungarian accent. So I went to my accent book, and I looked it up, and I studied my Hungarian as proficiently as I could. And I went and I worked the whole day using this fake Hungarian accent. And the following day, the director said to me, you can drop the accent. You can drop that accent. And I said, well, yeah. And I looked around. Everybody else was using the usual Middle European accent as a gypsy. So I quickly hopped aboard and decided to imitate them. So I used a Middle European accent. But as it turned out, the accent that I learned from my book was a shade different than a German accent, which is what a Hungarian accent is. And I realized that if I had just studied Eva Gabor, I would have been perfect. I would have been absolutely perfect.
Did you ever meet Eva Gabor?
I don't remember.
I don't remember a Battle of the Network Stars with her, but I don't know. Do we have any other audience questions while we're here in our remaining moments? Anybody else have a question they'd like to ask Mr. Asner? Right over here.
Your career is absolutely amazing to me. I am familiar with a film that you did recently. I was at the Santa Fe Film Festival. Mm-hmm. I had the honor of having my film show before yours. I'm just wondering, how you keep this pace up. It's incredible.
I have such appeal.
I'll say.
I mean, I'm built like $1 million. And I flex my chest, and everybody falls into place. They just love it. They just adore me. Anyway, I bribed my way into a lot of roles.
Nice work. One last question. The film that you were in called Parting Glass was like absolutely moving.
Called what?
The Parting Glass.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any word on when the rest of the world is going to be able to see that? Your performance was incredible. The film is just so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've heard nothing. And people very important, some high-powered players were involved in that movie, but they don't seem to have affected its release. So I don't know. It happens.
We have a few more minutes with you, Ed, and Phil has a question. But before we get to Phil's question, as we talk about television and as Lucia said, some of your new projects, some of our audience that might be watching who maybe didn't grow up with you in the Mary Tyler Moore Show may have been watching you in movies like Elf and Up. And we have a clip that I think we'd like to share so we can cross into something that's, as Lucia said, something a little bit more contemporary that we know you from. Let's take a look at Up.
Shady Oaks Retirement. Oh, brother.
Hey, morning, Mr. Fredrickson. Need any help there?
No. Yes. Tell your boss over there that you boys are ruining our house.
Well, just to let you know, my boss will be happy to take this whole place off your hands and for double his last offer. What do you say to that? Take that as a no, then.
I believe I made my position to your boss quite clear.
You poured prune juice in his gas tank.
Yeah, that was good. Here, let me talk to him.
You in the suit. Yes, you. Take a bath, hippie. I am not with him.
This is serious. He's out to get your house.
Tell your boss he can have our house.
Really?
When I'm dead.
I'll take that as a maybe.
Back then, there was good writing and good storytelling.
Yeah.
And the people have to pay attention to follow that programming and that storytelling. And it resonates with the audience. Compared to today, that doesn't happen so much anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really, and it's a shame. Because it's a very simple formula. It's following the best writers and following their best ideas. Unfortunately, there's a roadblock there now that stymies the writers and their best ideas.
Well, it's good for me TV.
Yeah. And you're in a new Netflix series. We should mention that you're in a new series. I think it's called Dead to Me.
That's one of them. I'm just starting another one now called Briar Patch with Rosario Dawson. I don't know that its writing is as great as Dead to Me, but we'll see.
That's what my ex-mother-in-law used to say. You're dead to me, but I can relate. We'll do a few, just a few names and just a quick response. Working with Ted Baxter.
He's the funniest man I ever knew until I met Will Ferrell.
Working with Betty White.
She is a ginger snap. She is funny, she is talented, she is clever.
Gavin MacLeod.
He is the nicest, warmest human being you can find.
Any others? Bob Newhart? I know you had a movie.
Bob Newhart? Oh, I love him. He was my neighbor. He lived close by, but he never took himself too seriously. And I think that's part of his magic.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to the end of our time here at WBBZ, and I would mention again that your show, A Man and His Prostate, is going to be touring the country and touring the world.
Yeah.
And as we said, you have an enormous level of energy, and we do have something for you. And Jordana, if you're here, Jordana's here, right? Yep. Yep, I want to bring Jordana over and Catherine and Phil because I want to present you, because I understand in November you're going to be celebrate your 90th birthday this November.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am.
So we have some.
I'd like my gift now, if you don't mind. Money will do. Money is fine.
Well,
what do you have?
We have something for you, Catherine. Step right in, and Jordana and Phil Arno. So on behalf of the Jewish Repertory Theater, WBBZ Television,
yes,
and the audience that's gathered here today.
I'm listening.
Take that black drape right off of that. No, take the black drape right off of your gift. And this is for
my
you
God!
With your name.
I always wanted a buffalo.
There it is.
I got my buffalo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a beauty. Liza, you're going to be delighted with this. This is your buffalo. Ah, she's the one who wants the buffalo more than I do. I love it. Thank you, buffalo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Asner.
I'm precious. You don't get it back.
No, I'm not getting it back. We want to thank you for joining us here for this special presentation with our audience here at WBBZ and sharing so many stories. There's another 3 hours we could spend telling so many things.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it again, Ed.
Let's do it.
Thank you, the Jewish Repertory Theater. Jordan, everything you and Saul Elkin do, we're there for you and will always be. And of course, Phil, thanks for putting this TV station together so we could do stories and shows like this. So.
And thanks to John DeShulo, because you were amazing. This was an extraordinary.
Well,
I know everybody on the crew, but John, you always pull everything together.
Thank you very much. Catherine Miller. Thank you, everybody. A living legend right here in Western New York. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching our special two-part presentation of An Evening with Ed Asner. Thanks for supporting the Jewish Repertory Theater, and thanks for watching WBBZ-TV.